There was a kindergarten near our house, and behind it, behind a high fence, stretched the backyards of private houses. The fences there were strong and high. Between the fence of the kindergarten and those surrounding the backyards there was a small grove of huge poplars, and in the middle of it there was a narrow path. The place seemed dark and ominous, and we children always tried to walk past it as quickly as possible. It was so uncomfortable there, especially near one of the yards where, according to our local horror stories, a certain Granny Smith lived. Who actually lived there, we didn't know. We were just afraid of the place, and that was it. We never asked more about it. One day when we were gathered in a large group, the conversation turned to the house, and one of us learned that it had been empty for 20 years. Naturally, someone began to urge us to look closer. What is so interesting there? We got together as a group and walked around, not to climb the fence, but to go through the wicket. The yard was full of tall grass, and the house was already a little askew. The windows and door were open. Despite the bright sunny day, it was still eerie. We went inside and it was dusty, but the bed was made. There was cutlery on the table, a pot on the stove, and a stopped clock hanging on the wall. It was very frightening. We were probably only there for about 3 minutes. We couldn't go any longer. Someone yelled something like, "Hey, who's there? We're not afraid." Someone even knocked something over or pushed something, and we ran out of there as fast as we could, trying to keep our dignity, and got out of there as fast as we could. Then all day long we were in shock. Toward evening, I walked with a friend around the daycare center as usual. When it was time to go home, we had to walk down the same scary path that had already scared us so much, and after all the events of the day, it seemed doubly horrible. It was dark during the day, and by evening it became quite gloomy. We walked closer to the fence of the grandmother's house, and it became more and more frightening. And there was someone behind us. We could not see who it was, but we heard footsteps and muffled conversation. We hurried out to the scary house, and on the path an old woman in black approached us, looking at us silently. We were petrified and frozen. She raised her hand and started waving her finger at us. We were confused and turned around and ran out of there, not seeing the road. As we ran out from behind the bushes, we were both grabbed by the shoulders and started shaking. It was the scariest moment of my life. I screamed and fought back, closing my eyes. When I was shaken violently, I opened my eyes and saw 2 uniformed police officers standing behind us trying to calm us down. They barely calmed us down. They asked what happened, but we just burst into tears and couldn't say a word, just jabbed our fingers in the direction of the house and mumbled something unintelligible, wiping snot on our dirty cheeks. When we recovered a little, the policemen took us home. They gave us each a pack of gum as a consolation. We never found out who the old woman was, but for us she will remain the owner of the abandoned house. After that incident, nobody dared to enter that house anymore, but the story about it was retold to children, adding new details and telling it to all new generations. So the house's notoriety lasted for many years, protecting it from vandals. It's been 30 years now, but sometimes I still think of that incident, and goosebumps run down my spine.